Oh my gosh, you guys, God is blowing our socks off again. This was crazy. So, on last Friday, the 27th, Andy and I, after he got off work, there was still some daylight out, and we decided to take a drive. I'd been cooped up in the house all week, and I wanted to see some sunshine and just take a drive. We do a lot of driving out here. It's some really beautiful area. But we hadn't been to this particular park. So we decided to turn into Montgomery Bell State Park, and I thought we could do a little bit of hiking or something. And, as you might remember, if you saw our last video, we actually ended up in Kentucky last weekend thinking we're looking for a house, which we did look at a house there. But God brought us to the Red River Meeting House with the birthplace of the Second Great Awakening. And we did not expect that. We didn't know anything about it. We hadn't researched it. Andy just happened to look it up on our way to Adairville, Kentucky. So that was a huge surprise that God was leading us in that direction. Well, so this last Friday, this is happening again. So we think we're going to a state park, but lo and behold, it was something that we did not expect. We start driving into this park, and there's a sign that says Historic Church. And I'm like, why in the world is there a church inside a state park? I looked it up later. This is the only state park in the entire state of Tennessee that has a church in it. Oh my goodness. So we're taking another random drive after Andy got back home from work. And we were in a park. This is like a state park, and all of a sudden it says Historic Church. So we come down here, and I am pretty sure this is the church that my great, I think his third great grandfather was trained in the presbytery. George Washington Mitchell. So, all of these coincidences, I guess they still have church services in here. It's a Friday evening, and we just wanted to do something. I was tired of being in the house all day. So we just drove, and then, in fact, I don't even know what city we're near. I'll have to look. So is this the historic church? Yeah, the birthplace shrine of the Cumberland Presbyterian Church at Montgomery Bell Park. Wow. I'm gonna have to look at this and see if there's anything my grandfather on here. So the history of that plot of ground, there was a cabin there, a log cabin in 1810, and it was on the Mikado farm, which was the home of Reverend Samuel Mikado. So he and Finis Ewing and Samuel King, along with Ephraim McLean, they all joined up, and so basically they formed the Cumberland Presbytery. And these were the founding fathers. So they had revivals on this site back in the day, in the early 1800s. So I did additional research on Ancestry.com regarding my own grandfather, George Washington Mitchell. His father, James Mitchell, in the early 1800s was closely associated with these folks, with the McLeans and the Ewings. says they were monthly visitors at their home, and so he grew up in this revival. This whole thing is made of stone. Two pianos in here. Wow.
You think this is where he was at?
I don't know about the history of the park. I'm gonna have to check it out. Andy, look at the fence. You saw that in a vision. Oh my god. You thought that was what the house we're supposed to buy. Old log house. Okay, so this is a replica.
What growth of the great rivalry can
Oh my gosh, so basically, this is what God's showing me, is that my great-grandfather was like, the Second Great Awakening started, and the Great Revival of 1800 came out of that. And I remember reading about it now, that's why my great-great-great-grandfather, how he got saved was from that revival. That's in some of the stuff that I read about him. And so he became a Cumberland Presbyterian minister. He was in Pulaski and then also I think Mount Pleasant. It was like Montgomery County, I think, Tennessee. Oh my gosh. So as I did more research, I found more information about what happened during this revival. And this is in the words of my grandfather. He was interviewed by the Cumberland Presbyterian newsletter. It says after entering the ministry, his work was largely in the camp meetings. His recollections of these times were vivid and his anecdotes numerous. He was talking about something they called the jerks back then, and this was a manifestation of God where people were shaking under the power of God. So in this document here, there were doctors that came and were trying to understand why these people were shaking, and they were poking them with lancets, and it says it was so bloody it looked like a battlefield because they were trying to do bloodletting to see if they would stop shaking under the power of God. But this also talks about a famous Indian fighter that was kind of mocking it, saying that wouldn't happen to him, and apparently he also was shaking under the power of God and could not control it. So said Mr. Mitchell, speaking of the jerk, strong and vigorous as Joe Brown was, he was affected. Right. That is so funny. So this is a replica of what was here. Because he got sent to the Cumberland Presbytery to train. So I don't know if it was exactly on this land or... And this is just a document that was hanging up there talking about how this is a reproduction of the original log house that had been there. It was rather small, actually. But it talked about how they used this log house to actually for a time of worship and coming together for fellowship, later on. They also had constructed that chapel, so it was a reproduction of the original. But they used that during times when they were celebrating, like the 130th assembly. So after visiting that park, we decided to hunt down the original location of where he was a preacher at. And this was in Pulaski, Tennessee. This is Mount Moriah, Cumberland Presbyterian Church. We found the name of this church, which was founded in 1810. This is a church that was erected after that in the later 1800s. But we made a pilgrimage out to Pulaski, Tennessee the following day on Saturday, the 28th. And really just trying to reconnect with this whole story. He was a big member of this community. This is an article that was talking about how he was really instrumental in a revival in Elkton, Tennessee, where 24 people professed faith in God, and then 26 people were added to the church there. This is another article where they're talking about how he's been away from his primary pulpit for 3 weeks conducting revivals in Fayetteville, Tennessee, and they were excited about him returning. He was a really well-respected member of the community there and really respected as a man of God. So this was really inspiring. And just through this entire experience, I've just been so grateful to God. He's reassuring me that he's the God of my fathers. And it's something it's a very weighty fear of God on this. And I'm just so grateful to him for bringing us out here.